things have been going pretty well for Robl since entering this tournament.
Yeah, it seems like a...
Oops.
Oh.
If you didn't catch what just happened, it's insane. Andrew Robl, who has the nuts, threw in a time extension chip, and Bryn Kenny thought Robl was calling and announced his hand. This is not an angle by Kenny. He really thought it was a call. He really announced his hand. And it's going to put him in a really tough spot in this $130K buy-in.
Yeah, $130,000 buy-in, just in case you didn't hear that. Holy moly, what a crazy spot. That's probably why it was suggested on Twitter by Ben Page. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, tweet it at us, include a YouTube link and a timestamp. That just means tell us what time it is on the video that you're sending to us.
And I'm really excited to get to this one, but first we got to keep the lights on by talking about the sponsor, Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, who is a great sponsor not only because they keep the lights on, but also because they host this awesome monthly tournament for you guys.
Yeah, it's an amazing tournament. There's a massive overlay. We need 1,000 players to reach the guarantee every month. It's at the end of the month. We usually get like 60 or 70. It's a way for you to keep the lights on if you win it. You got to play it. It costs less than $1 to play as well. You got to use the link in the description, though, when you sign up to even be able to see the tournament.
Right, use that link or you can't even see it. Think of how sad that would be. Wouldn't
Bad.
you be sad if you didn't get that crazy overlay?
You'd be so sad. You don't even know.
You don't even know yet, but you will if you don't use the link. So that's why you use the link. And let's get to the hand now.
Seems slightly loose given that the opponent is raising an early position, but does have the dealer button. Andrew Robl of Queen Jack offsuit as well. Doesn't know his cards have been taken. He's going to make the call. It's going to have a three-way flop.
Check one. Check one to check raise.
Ace, King, Deuce, Rainbow. Bryn Kenny outflops both players. Makes the check. Over to Orpin on the button. I think both options are okay on this flop. Queen Jack could bet, could check. He's going to take the passive option. Trying to hit that 10. Doesn't, turns a 4. Andrew Robl here. He checks. I think Bryn Kenny needs to bet now. Once he sees his opponent bets, checks around on the flop and checks the turn. Gotta think ace-9 is the best. Try to get value out of the king, so he bets 31,000 and gonna get 2 quick folds. Robl's thinking about playing back here. Seems like a weird spot to make a move. It's just got Queen Jack high. It's got a shot clock. It's going to make the call, actually. Maybe he thinks his Queen Jack high is good, a decent amount. Okay, I guess he thinks he beats spade draws. It's only got 9% to win this pot.
These guys are obviously really good at poker, but it feels like the ranges in different parts of the hand are kind of strange and suboptimal. Like, what is Bryn Kenny doing opening +1 with ace-9 off? That just feels like a disaster. I guess he thinks he's the best player in the world. That must be what it is.
I mean, he's really, really good.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of really good players at this table, too. So it's a strange decision to do that. It's also, honestly, in my opinion, a little strange to even check this flop. I know he's got ace-9. I understand pot control, blah, blah, blah. At the same point, it's a little strange. But stranger much more than any of this is Andrew Robl's decision to check call queen high out of position on the turn for 1/10 of his stack.
Yeah, you would think if Robl were to continue in this hand, he'd want to rep like an ace-8 suited type hand that he decided to flat pre-flop by leading the turn.
Yes.
Rather than check calling the turn with his gut shot. It is a gut shot to the nuts, but it's not the nuts if the 10 of spades comes, of course. So that's a bit of a problem as well, because Kenny does have spade draws in his range as played, absolutely. So why is he check calling here where he's going to be out of position and not have the initiative?
I mean, you would think, I agree, the initiative is really the key here. Wouldn't you want to be the guy making the aggressive play, be it leading the turn or check raising the turn, rather than check calling the turn, where it's just going to be so hard to win on the river so much? Are we betting all misses on the river? That would be weird.
That would be weird. Maybe we're betting spades on the river. We're going to rep the spades ourselves.
Okay, we'd usually lead those on the turn.
More importantly than that, I think part of Robl's thing has to be, I think queen high is good enough of the time. It's not just that I have a draw to the nuts. It's that queen high against Bryn Kenny, who clearly has a very wide range, is good enough of the time that this is a justifiable call. Now, the problem with that logic is that if queen high is good and Kenny doesn't improve in some way, he's probably going to bet the river, and it's probably not going to be an easy bet to call. Robl may think, though, that Kenny may put Robl on either an ace or a pretty good king and think, okay, he's not going to fold the river. I give up my bluff with my 9 high or whatever it is.
There's no question it looks like Robl has a medium king here, like king 10 suited or something like that. And it's true, Kenny may decide it's not worth bluffing. Now, he wouldn't be bluffing here, but not worth bluffing against that what seems like calling type range there. So maybe Robl thinks Kenny just has a huge amount of give-ups here, and he doesn't have to worry about it. Once in a while, Kenny definitely is going to bluff, though. Kenny's pretty bluffy, in fairness.
I mean, look at the guy. That's a bluffy-looking guy, and he lives up to the bill. You know, he really is a bluffy guy.
Yeah.
Now, we can talk all about these ranges forever, but who cares? Let's talk about what we teased at the beginning, because the river is insane.
Yeah, we got to watch this.
Let's get to this river.
River's the straight. Wow, calls with queen jack high, out of position. Hits it. Bryn Kenny of ace 9. Trying to decide, should he try to get value out of a king, like king, queen, king, jack, weak aces? Hands he should be scared of is king 10 exactly. He's never going to put his opponent on queen, jack. He's going to fire and get check raised all in here, most likely. Big bet for Bryn Kenny, 69,000, about half the pot. So Robl check around on the flop. Check calls the turn with queen high on ace king board. River's a straight. Seems like a suspicious call on the turn, but pays off. Just got to shove now. Hope your opponent has a piece.
Things have been going pretty well for Robl since entering this tournament.
Yeah, it seems like a...
Oops.
Oh. Oh, man. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, Robl put out a time bank chip, and Kenny announced his hand because he thought it was a call.
Wow, that's very weird from Bryn Kenny's point of view, because Robl's going to shove no matter what. He threw out a time bank chip, thought it was a red chip, announcing his hand ace.
That makes a really, really interesting dynamic here.
And actually, if I'm Robl here, you just gotta. Well, I wonder what you do if you have a bluff, right? Now that is sick. Yeah, Kenny announced his hand an ace. Robl still shoves.
And it couldn't have worked out better for Robl there. He was using his time bank chip to feign that he was thinking about this hand. And then when he used it, Kenny announced his hand, and that was music to Robl's ears, because now it looks like Robl could be making a play at him.
Yeah, this is so sick.
299.
Gosh. Yeah, those time bank chips actually do kind of look like they're 1,000 chips, so I don't fault Bryn Kenny for announcing his hand. He's definitely going to be careful in the future, but this spot... Oh, man.
So now if you're Bryn Kenny, what's going through your head?
Is what? Well, I announced an ace, so he knows I only have one pair. Seems like actually, I think you just got to fold. The problem is that he's up against, he does call.
Wow, he calls. He's going to be shown the bad news.
Shown to straight. That is disgusting.
What a crazy spot for Bryn Kenny that he accidentally put himself in there. Now, in a normal scenario where all of that stuff didn't happen, where watch this, didn't happen. If that didn't happen, I think it's a pretty easy fold for Bryn Kenny most of the time. I mean, Robl's not going to have too many bluffs here. But now that Kenny announced his hand, it changes everything. Robl is so happy, by the way, that Kenny did, because it gives Kenny so much more reason to call.
It has to, right? Because in the old days, meaning any day that where Robl didn't throw it and Kenny announces his hand when it isn't actually a call, Robl is going to be calling with his king highs, not king highs, but his kings a lot here, right? And even his bad aces, he's going to just be calling. Now he knows he can't really call with any of those hands.
Right.
And so he's either going to dump them or pump them. That is it, right?
Good rhyme.
Thank you. I've been working on that one.
Yeah, you've said it before. You haven't been working on it.
No, I know.
It's
before,
been workshopped already. We've already put it through the ringer. We don't need to go back there.
It's a winner. It's a winner, and you got to sometimes,
Okay.
nostalgia, you got to revisit the winner.
Well, so is Andrew Robl. Now, here's the question. Should he have won this much? Even with all of this happening, should Bryn Kenny be calling?
Well, it's really tough now. I think I agree with Grant. In most cases, most of the time, this is a fold on the river, especially when a 10 comes where it makes a bunch of weird two-pair hands and stuff like that. We mostly have to fold ace-9 here when we bet it. It's near the bottom of our betting range
for sure.
It's a pretty easy fold most of the time anyway. However, now this changes, as Grant said, everything. And I think we have to strongly consider calling. I certainly don't fault Bryn Kenny for calling. Now we've created this dynamic accidentally.
Right. So often, Robl won't have many bluffs here at all as played.
Right.
But now, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, he has to turn his kings into a bluff if he wants to continue with them at all because he knows they're no good because Bryn Kenny definitely not as an angle announced that he had an ace.
Right.
It was clear that it wasn't an angle and is clearly a funny scenario for everybody. But now Robl's bluffs are so much more expansive combinatorially than they would have otherwise been. Before, maybe you could put Miss Spades in there, like rarely, but sometimes he would choose Miss Spades as a bluff. Now he for sure is bluffing with all of his one-pair hands that are no good.
I mean, it's a really bizarro spot. Also, you'd have to think as Bryn Kenny, how much value does Robl really have here anyway? When we can add all these bluffs, there's very little value he can be check raising for. Now, here's a hand, but I don't know how we even got here with this
King
hand.
10 seems to make more sense.
Yeah, is he really even going to check shove King 10 until he hears us say ace? I don't know.
Well,
but now
is
he would.
definitely when he
Now
hears us
he would.
say ace.
Right,
so
of
that
course he
adds a
would.
little bit more to the value side that's like definite value that's there.
Right.
So
All two-pair hands now are getting shoved.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So that's true.
it's hard to have a two-pair hand as Robl, though.
It is. It's possible, but hard. But all one-pair hands are probably getting shoved now, too.
Yeah, so
Right.
now in a world where previously this play would be like heavily weighted towards value, it now comes back to being weighted towards bluffs, which is a reason for Kenny to call and why I think he ultimately does call. Robl is so lucky that this scenario played out, having made that call on the turn that we didn't really like, that he actually makes the nuts, and it looks so bluffy. I can't imagine a better scenario.
I mean, there's another thing to keep in mind, too, and this may be a little bit ridiculous, but there's a meta aspect, especially for Bryn Kenny. He's playing against the best players in the world. He knows once Robl shoves, people are going to talk about this hand for a long time. People, not necessarily us, but like the high roller community is going to talk about this and how Bryn Kenny responded to this. And if he folds a good hand here, which everyone's going to be able to see that he actually folded a top pair hand, they're going to be looking to take more shots at him in these very rare, weird misclick type situations. They'll know that he's apt to give up in these spots rather than they should never try. You know,
Well,
that matters a little bit.
It matters
anyway.
a tiny
A
bit. I
little
think
bit.
what matters more is that Robl's bluff range went from this to this.
Yeah, of
And we
course.
just have to accept that. And I think it's actually right to call here as Kenny. It's a weird spot, but it would be a terrible call without the whole scenario. But with it, I think we have to call.
I agree, and it sucks, and then he lost. Lot of interesting decisions in this particular hand. A lot of stuff I'm not entirely sure about, especially the turn call by Andrew Robl. Really interesting spot, of course, on the river for Bryn Kenny as well. You heard what we think about it. We want to know what you think about it. Let us know in the comments. We really look forward to seeing what you have to say about this one.
Yeah, I mean, do you really think Robl's turning a bunch of kings into bluffs, or do you think he's not
Maybe-
going to pull
maybe
the
he
trigger?
isn't.
Maybe he's not really going to do that. I
Yeah.
don't know. But nonetheless, obviously, super interesting spot. Would love to hear your thoughts. We'd also love to hear your thoughts on this other video that we did of Bryn Kenny, because Bryn Kenny plays interesting poker. It was also in a super high roller event, I think. Maybe
Yeah.
it was a 10K event. I don't know.
It was high.
It was
high roller.
it was a big deal event. If you want to see this hand, just click up here. It's a good hand.
It's a great hand, really interesting spot, using blockers as bluff cards at the end of a hand. Really cool, check it out for sure. Now, if you want to hear how we came to all our decisions and thoughts about this hand, you got to check out our podcast, The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys.
Wow, you said that cool.
Thank you. It's a 45-minute podcast where we spend the entire time just talking about one hand. In this case, this hand, we really get into things like, how does Andrew Robl call the turn out of position for a 10th of a stack on the turn? Is it good or bad? What do we think? Trying to figure these things out. Come along with us on your favorite podcast app.
It's really a lot better for the car than watching a video. We don't want you getting in an accident or anything.
Right.
So if you're driving and watching this video, turn it off and listen to the podcast
Safer.
instead. It's much safer, and it's also safe to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel.